So now we are transitioning over to the playing the K-pop stuff on the piano segment. So we're gonna go over to the piano now. I mean, Kevin's gonna go over to the piano now. And we're gonna point out and explain some chord progressions, in further details.
So the most common example of chord progressions are 4 chords that repeat throughout a single section or even an entire song. Our first example is one that's completely in major, and it shows through the chords. They're all big, big, big letters. And the first example is Sistar's Touch My Body. Just the chords first. Now with the melody. So our second example is BAP's One Shot, and the chord progression here is entirely in minor, and you'll hear it. Obviously I'm playing the chorus because I don't know how to play rap on the piano. Now with the melody, the best part. So in our next example, we're doing a chord progression that flips between major and minor. It's ambiguous what it is. It's Beach Fiction! So, here are the chords. Right? So the first 2 are in minor and the last 2 are in major. Minor, minor, major, major. Because they're clumped together 2 by 2, it doesn't really emphasize, either one, so you could interpret it either way. And because the entire song is the same chord progression, you never know. Here, I'll play it with the piano riff. Okay, there's an ending, but that's not important.
So we've already taught you about the most typical chord progression, the 4 chords during a certain section or the full song of a pop song. Next, we're going to teach you about what we call drones or prolongations.
Whoa, that's right, we do use that word.
So, what we're about to teach you next, which I am going to demonstrate on the piano because it requires no skill whatsoever. I just hit one note. Because I can't play the piano. But basically, drones and prolongations are the same thing. Like, it's basically, those are fancy word for one note just going along at the bottom. Instead of like 4 different chords as a chord progression, it's just and that's it. That's the drone, that's progression. That's the prolongation, that's the one note. Yep.
That's the one note, that's the tonic, that's the prolongation.
Or sometimes it's dominant, you never know.
You're right.
It's usually tonic or dominant because those are like, the easiest notes to harmonize or create a melody over. But a drone is most popular in brag on party music. So I will demonstrate a few.
Songs with drops.
You aren't in the picture.
Songs with drops. You bet that at least 50%, if not 60 or 70%.
I'd say 90%.
No,
Okay,
there are drops
80.
where it still goes, I'd say 70.
70, okay.
70% of the time, it drops into a drone. Okay, in American pop, it's 90%. In K-pop, it's around 70%.
Our best example is Icon's Bling Bling. This drone happens during the chorus where it just goes on tonic. song with something happening very low that's moving around a lot, and you may mix that up for a chord progression. However, it's the lowest thing that you hear that's the chord progression.
Wait.
So you hear this bum ba 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 ba. That's not the chord progression. That's just like a riff, would you say?
Yes.
It's just a riff. But if you listen really closely, you just hear this underneath all that. And that's the drone. That's what the song is, you know, like floating, well, rocking over.
Jesus.
Getting lit over. Sometimes chord progressions have different names. So we've already gone over, you know, like the typical 4-chord progression, and we went over drones. And now we're gonna go over other chord progressions that you've heard us name in reactions before. So the very first one that we're gonna review is lament bass. Ooh. Okay, so before my past self, begins to play examples of lament bass and tetrachords in K-pop, fun fact, lament bass is a tetrachord. So basically what a tetrachord is, it is a pattern of descending notes, and lament bass is just one of those patterns, and one of those patterns specifically has that name. So when you hear us say lament bass, we're just basically saying tetrachord, and we're saying tetrachord, it could be a lament bass. In terms of scale degrees, what is lament bass? Well, lament bass is basically a chord progression going downwards, kind of chromatically, but it's this specific pattern of chromatic notes that make it lament versus just a chromatically descending line. So this example is going to be in C major. So we're going to start with the note C, or tonic, or 1 in scale degrees. 1, then we go to flat 7, we skip the 1 7, we skip that. We go 1, flat 7, flat 6, 5, 1, flat 7, flat 6, 5. And that's lament bass, just those 4 notes. And so this is actually used a few times in K-pop songs, and the very first example is going to be Hello Venus's Mysterious. So if you go to the chorus in Hello Venus's song, it goes mysterious, mysterious. Oh god, oh that was bad. Mysterious, mysterious. And then the lowest notes, if you listen for the lowest notes, you can hear this.
Can we have a video of just you jamming to things?
I don't think people would want to see that.
Please, be honest, guys.
Now, tetrachords are... What are tetrachords?
The basic version is always 1 7 6 5.
Tetrachords are 1 7 6 5. So if in C major,
But the thing is, any variation of the 7th or 6th can also be applied. So it could be 1 7 flat 6 5. Could be 1 flat 7 6 5. It could even be 1 7 flat 7 6 5. That's an extra note, but it's possible.
So our first example of a descending tetrachord is in Mamamoo's Oh Ah Yeah. The descending tetrachord happens during the chorus. So it goes, since this song is in the key of E minor, it goes 1 7 6 5. No, it doesn't.
Hey, we've had this debate before. Yep. It's very faint. Let me tell you.
It's there. You can barely hear it. I could barely hear it with headphones, so Kevin had to help me.
I think
but
it's pretty
it's
obvious.
very faint, but shh. Isn't that obvious for the non-Kevins? So next is 12-bar blues. That is a progression in jazz music that pop music sometimes borrows. For example, in Lehi's It's Over, which I'm going to have Kevin play since I do not have the piano playing skills to play 12 notes in a row without crying.
So intro, right? It's all flashy and free, but then we got to kick in the rhythm. One chord. to 4. 1. Go 5. 4. 1. Oh, that's the 12 bar blues. Repeat, 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 repeat. That's it. There's a lot of repetition, but if you really want accuracy, this is what the 12 bar blues boils down to. 1 1 1 1, 4 4 1 1, 5 4 1 1. Just follow that for that number of
measures.
You think?
We'll teach you what measures are later on.
Yeah, that number of bars, hence 12 bars. And you get the 12 bar blues. And the reason for the 12 bar blues being so rigid is because back in the day, you know, when jazz was a fresh thing, you know, people could jam together without ever having met each other. And the 12 bar blues is one of just the original ways they jammed that has stood the test of time and is still going strong today.
Last but not least, sequences. So you've heard us say, oh, descending fifths, or D2 sequence, or D3 sequence, or Pachelbel sequence, or something like that. Well, we are now going to break down some examples for you. I mean, we as in just Kevin.
There's a tormented soul inside of her. Can you see it? So there's this thing called the descending fifth sequence. Descending fifth in K-pop usually appears in minor, but in Roman numerals, here's what it is. 1, 4. Now why is it 4? Because it's a descending fifth, so you can't count 5 up from 1. You have to count 5 down from 1. So if you start with 1, you go 5 notes down, it's actually 4. So, but what's next? You have to backtrack a little bit. Go back to 1 and find the note that's right below it, that's still within the scale. So in this case, it's some form of sev. And in C minor, it's sev. It's sev. So, and then you go descending fifth again from that. And you go the next chord up, the next chord, which is 6. You find the descending fifth of that. And it usually ends there. So there's like sort of like a ping pong action if you look at the bass. So every 2 notes is a descending fifth. So you got that, and then it starts over. Descending fifth, and then descending fifth, and then descending fifth. But it's that downwards motion that makes it a sequence. You see, there's like a pattern. That's why it's called a sequence. We call it a D2 sequence, and that's, I guess, it's a very Steve Lates way of talking about it, but that's the way we were taught. So the reason it's called D2 sequence is because every clump of descending fifths is going down by seconds. So those are a second interval away from each other. And so is this, and so is this from the last one. So it keeps on going down by seconds. And if you want to keep on going, you know, but at some point it starts to get too predictable. So you don't want to go too long for a sequence. One of the things that we're trying to show you is in classical music, a descending fifths has to be a sequence, as in it has to appear more than 2 times. It has to go, and then it goes to, I would call it, that's what makes a descending fifth sequence. But in pop music, it is very likely that a sequence will start, but it just does it twice. And so it's kind of a sequence. It's kind of just a descending fifths pattern. Now, my first example of it is B2B's Missing You. So the 4 chords in B2B's Missing You are E, A, D, and G. So you see the descending fifths. Count it once, and then it starts from the note right below it. And then it does it again. So it's twice. It doesn't go lower. It just does it twice. It actually goes back. So my second example in which the descending fifth appears twice as well is Sunmi's Gashina. Recognize that? So the next sequence we're going to introduce you to is the Pachelbel sequence. I'm going to say the Roman numeral while I play each chord in the key of C. 1, 5, 6, 3, 4, 1, and so on. But Pachelbel specifically ends it with 4, 5, which technically aren't a part of the sequence, but it is part of the Pachelbel thing. So like, don't get it confused. Those last two notes of the canon in D or in C are not part of the sequence. It's only, I mean, you could go more, but that doesn't sound good, right? Our first example is from the intro of Day 6's Better Better, and that's also one where the descending fourths appear only twice instead of going onwards like Pachelbel does. It actually plays the very next chord, but then it does something different. So I guess it's 2.5. If you looked at my hands just now, you notice that I wasn't playing descending fourths, but I was playing just a regular tetrachord downwards. Now, how come it's still a descending fourth sequence? Well, there's a thing called an inversion, where you can switch off the bass note of a chord with another note that also belongs in the chord. So for instance, if we take the second and third notes and play the first inverted chord, it's actually a much smoother bass contour. So the original is, but if we move these two up, it'll be. And there's no better way to demonstrate this than to play the Day 6 riff 2 times, but with one time with inversion and one time without. So this is the one with inversion, aka how it appears in the song. And then this is the uninverted version. Notice the left hand. It doesn't sound that different, but maybe for Young K, playing that smooth bass line is what really matters. So our last example is from Acmu's Last Goodbye. And this one, believe it or not, actually goes through the sequence 3 times, which makes it a legit classical descending fourths Pachelbel sequence. So there is a part of the song where they play the melody of Pachelbel's canon, but believe it or not, they swapped the original Pachelbel sequence with something different. However, once the verse starts, it actually is a Pachelbel sequence. That's really weird. It's a good song, so it's all that matters.
So you guys might be wondering, what if what I'm hearing as the lowest notes in a song isn't a chord progression? What if it isn't a lament bass? What if it isn't a drone? What if it isn't all the stuff that we taught you in this music video? Well, that would be called a riff. Often riffs are played like on a saxophone, or maybe a bass guitar, like in Ice Ice Baby.
Or Under Pressure. It was Under Pressure first!
That is called a riff. We don't really need to teach you guys about the musical stuff behind riffs. It's just basically a repeated melody that is supplementing for a chord progression. Not necessarily repeated. Okay. So a riff is basically... Your head is being cut off.
You guys can think of a bass riff like when a bass instrument is moving sort of melodically. You can hear it in 17's Pretty You, for instance. Also, riffs can also be melodic. Don't get it mixed up that riffs only have to be moving bass lines. Like, this is a riff. Whoa, that's a blues riff, and it's melodic.
Yeah, riffs can be in the treble, and they also can be supplements for chord progressions.
Instrumental filler.
Instrumental filler. Ooh.
Whoa!
Ooh, that one's good.
Yeah.
Because, like, vocalists do riffs, and that's when they go, like, you know, that stuff. And then, like, sometimes whatever he just played. And then there's also, you know, like I said before, the supplement for a chord progression in the bottom. Da-na-na-na-na-na.
Riffs can also be called licks.
Let's not confuse them!
Riffs got licks. Do you know about the lick?
But licks can't supplement for chord progression.
They can.
No, they can't!
Okay, fine, let's just remove the lick part.
Up next, y'all, we'll be teaching you about cadences. Have you ever heard us at the end of a song scream,
It cadenced! Are we supposed to-
Either one of those. Whether we've screamed it cadenced or it didn't resolve or plagal, half cadence, PAC. If you've heard any of those words, that is what we'll be teaching you in our next video. Resolving, dissonance, and cadences and the different type of cadences, aka half cadences, perfect authentic cadences, imperfect authentic cadences.
Lots of words,
Yeah,
but
words.
you'll understand them by the next video.
Yeah, see you guys later. Bye.